You probably have been in a situation when your customers doesn't want to buy or choose your product, and you are thinking how to validate what customer wants, how to validate your idea, your concept, your market. So here today we're gonna speak about validation, and here with me today I have again Angelica Morrone, hedge fund manager and an angel investors. And the fun fact that these guys are invested into 17 companies so far, and this is an incredible amount of investments for an investor. Well, Angelica, great to have you in here. A few words about yourself, and let's get started.
Thank you, Daniel. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me and inviting me, especially to talk about a topic that is very close to my heart. So I am, and as you said, a hedge fund manager, has been for most of my adult life, angel investor. And one of my favorite topics and one of my visions in life is to accelerate impactful capital. What does that mean? That means that I really want to help investors understand startups more, and I want startups to understand investors more, so that the dialogue can be very good and very productive, and they're going to be more safe and fruitful investments going forward.
Right, awesome. Look forward to seeing it. Everyone who is watching us, please press the like button, leave your comments below, and of course, subscribe to the channel.
So here we are. So one of the topics that is closest to my heart, as I was saying before, is the importance of validation, which is misunderstood, but really vital, especially when we're trying to do something that opens a new market or a new niche of the market. What are the different stages of a product development? We know all of them, from the ideation to the concept validation, design, MVP, market validation. Finally, we get into development, product launch, and if we're lucky, we get into monetization. We have a little drawing here to explain it, and we see that there is an absolute logical thread to it that must be followed all the time. Why do we need to validate? Everybody always asks me that. It feels like it's a waste of time. I have a great idea. I want to get to market. Do I really need to validate? And my answer is usually yes. You do need to validate, because validation reduces risk, minimizes costs, and of course it determines whether the time and the market are right, and it confirms if the solution that you are putting on the market is efficient enough for what you've chosen to do. So where does validation come into play? If you remember, I've just showed you the different phases of the product development, and we can see two areas where this is needed. One is the concept validation. So before spending too much money and time, you must ensure that you have a valid concept. And the second one is a bit further down the line, and it is the market validation. Only the market can pass or fail any product and service. So we must ask the market if our product is right. And that is what we're going to show you why that is important. Today, I wanted to bring to you three examples. Two of them in concept validation, one of them in market validation, because I think that giving you examples will really make you understand why I decided to invest in this company or did not invest, and it will also show you how you could have done things better. I will not name the projects for confidentiality issues, as you all very well understand. So the very first project I'm talking about is about a lady, a former designer, amazingly talented, and she decided to go into entrepreneurship and design custom-made, personalized, high-end silk scarves, where you as the customer could have anything on them, from your own family photo to a landscape photo or your own drawing. So it was very artistic. They were made to order to the highest standards. Some of the best silk makers in France are making her scarves as well. What is the issue with this? First of all, the high-end customers are usually drawn to fashionable brands. They want to wear a high-end designer scarf, not necessarily one drawn from their own volition and imagination. The other is that very often they don't want to wait 3, 4, 5 weeks once they have ordered the item to have it. Society today is very fast-paced. They don't want to wait. Unfortunately, this person had not thought about setting up either a landing page to gather interest and to gather comments, or even to gather pre-order to see if there was an interest in the concept, nor has he done a survey. Or actually, he had done a survey, but he had not asked the right questions. So once again, it's important to do things properly and ask the right questions to the market. The concept did not work this way, and she had to pivot. But she's doing really, really well right now. And I did end up investing in her because she had the right mindset and she listened to do and did a concept validation at the end. The second example I wanted to bring you is one very different. As you can see, I am interested in all kinds of different companies. This one is a project that came up during the recent pandemic. Well, now it's behind us. But anyway, the pandemic changed the way we lived for a little bit of time. And these three very, very smart physics and engineers, electronic engineers, decided to design a product, a personal distancing device that could be used in supermarkets and any crowded areas so that people shouldn't get too close and the virus wouldn't spread. Their idea was coming from a good place, so the mindset was right. The technology behind it was also very good because it was very precise and a new technology that no one else had used yet. It was made to the highest standards and very, very reliable. So what was the issue with this project? They needed to do concept validation, and they found out after only spending a little bit of money, thankfully they stopped early enough, they found out that it was very expensive to make. And big supermarket chains were happier to actually have lines on their floors and have signs everywhere instead of investing a lot of money and have these devices available for everybody. Also, this project was too time dependent. Once the pandemic was gone, very likely this investment was not going to be used for this reason and had to be repurposed. So what happened? Nobody really was ready to invest so much money. The validation could have been done in a very simple way, as exactly as before, a simple landing page and some surveys with the supermarkets and the prospective buyers to at least test the concept and understand if that was something that was of interest or not. They did not do the concept validation. They actually went into production, and unfortunately the project failed because nobody bought it. Then we have another one. This one is a market validation issue and a market validation that was needed. The project is once again a very interesting one. Is a device, high-end, high-technology device for real-time measurement of petrol or gasoline leaks in the tanks of trucks and trains. I didn't know that before meeting these people, but there are thousands and thousands of gallons of gas that gets lost. And that is a loss for the company, and that is bad for the environment. Big companies, especially the big 5 companies in the world, supposedly lose trillions every year. I say supposedly because nobody's really measuring this, so it's difficult to tell. This project included a customized end-to-end real-time solution stored on the cloud. So it had all the technology that was needed to make this a successful project. What was the issue with this firm in particular? They found out that big companies don't want to pay for this issue because it's really not their issue. If I sell you something and then you lose it, it is your issue more than mine. So I'm not going to pay to give you a solution. Smaller companies, the ones that were actually downstream in the value chain, they did not perceive the issues and they had a lot of other issues. So they said, we can have insurance and they can cover the cost, and environmental is not a big thing right now. This is a 3-year-old project. Maybe today would be different. So at the end of the day, they did not want to make the investment. So how could they have validated the concept first with focus groups and again with surveys? And how could they have had a market validation by having at least one company do a prototype testing and then an order? With one order, they could have put into production everything without spending a lot of money. This company is still up and running. They're doing better. They've decided to pivot slightly, and they have asked for market validation at the end. It took a lot of convincing. So how can we change things if things don't go well? If the business idea failed, my suggestion is just let it be. If the business idea fails, think of something else. Maybe the target fails, and then you must test it on a different market, but also validate it and test it on that second market. Don't assume it's the right one. Maybe it's the timing. Is it too early? Is it too late? It's very important. Market timing is everything. Something that you sell today may have been too early 3 years ago and nobody was ready to buy it. Early adopters are usually not enough to give you a viable and sustainable market. And then, of course, maybe it's the why. Was the why properly expressed? Did everybody really understand what you were doing and why you were doing that? And these are questions that you really want to keep in mind when you're trying to do the concept validation. For the market validation, on the other hand, other questions must be asked. One is very basic. Is there a need for your product on the market? Are you opening a new market? And if yes, is it going to be very lengthy to open a new market? Also, is the business model a problem? Sometimes when you're opening a market or when you're creating a niche, you have to try and adapt different business models to make sure that it is viable for yourself and for the end user. Sometimes the competition is too strong. You need to have the market validated. If you have no competition, it's a problem because it means that you have to either open a completely new market or somebody else has tried and failed because there is no market. If there is too much competition, that can also be a problem, and you need to validate it beforehand. Also, sometimes the market is overly protected. For example, in terms of market entry or in terms of a few monopolies holding on to the market and not letting other people get in. And that you will find out if you do a market validation. So what do we do? Do we pivot or do we stay the course? As you very well imagine, investors like that fire in the belly that entrepreneurs have. They like the new idea. They like to see that you are convinced about what you do. But sometimes, if you stay too much with an idea, you end up appearing too stubborn and not flexible enough to go with the flow and go with the market needs. On the other hand, if you easily pivot and you don't seem to have enough concentration on your idea, then you seem to have the squirrel syndrome, that you are distracted by something else all the time. And that is also not good. It's a very fine line that an entrepreneur has to walk. What do we do then? First of all, my advice is always listen to the market. Learn to ask the right questions. Be willing to learn from the market. Also, learn to accept that maybe you're wrong. And if your market tells you that you're wrong, that is something that you really should listen to. But on the other hand, don't give up too quickly, because giving up too quickly may make you lose interest and may make you lose a potentially great opportunity. It is a balancing act. Being an entrepreneur, being a successful entrepreneur requires constant balancing and compromising. But if you do a proper market validation, concept validation first and market validation later, your chances of success are going to be vastly improved.
Exciting. Thank you so much, Angelica. I have a question. We have majority of the companies on our global community in B2B SaaS. What would be the concept validation and validation process for such companies at early stage?
That's a very good question, Daniel, because of course that is the direction in which many companies are moving. B2B, SaaS, and even app things that are not easily validated. However, if you manage to know what your target is, right? So you think about your target is young people from 25 to 35. You start doing small surveys with them, maybe giving them a small discount or putting a small event together, which is sometimes it feels a little bit expensive, but is very, very important. The gathering of data is one of the things that should never be underestimated. As I said before, sometimes setting up a landing page doesn't cost too much, but it gives you an idea of how many people are willing to leave you at least their email address or their phone number to hear from you again. Those are the people that, if they are in your market, they are going to be the ones who will click and they will do the purchase. And that is particularly important. So between surveys, landing pages, questionnaires, and focus groups, these are the three ways that work for just about any company out there.
Thank you. Now we learned how to do market validation, concept validation, and all various validation that would lead you to your customer heart, and at the same time will give you some understanding whether you need to pivot or not. Here with me, we had Angelica Morrone. Thank you, Angelica, so much. And please press the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below. We'll try to answer all the questions to support you, to help you. Thank you, Angelica, so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.